63 engineers stood in the glass atrium of Artemis Defense Systems, sharp suits, polished shoes, every one of them holding a tablet or a leather portfolio. Then the door opened and a man walked in wearing a faded canvas jacket and carrying a cardboard box. Behind him, a 6-year-old girl clutched a gray stuffed owl named Atlas. The laughter started immediately. Someone near the back said it looked like a school science fair had wandered into the wrong building. 30 seconds later, the drone inside that box would fly patterns no military contractor in the room had ever seen. The girl would ask one question that would crack the entire room open. And by the time the sun set that evening, the CEO who mocked him would be writing an $8 million offer on company letterhead. Stay with this one. It earns it. The atrium smelled like polished granite and expensive coffee. Celia Harmon stood at the center of the room in a tailored charcoal suit, arms crossed, watching the man approach. She was 32. She had been CEO for 16 months. The board still questioned her every move. This pitch session was her chance to prove she could identify real innovation when she saw it. She did not see it now. The man walked slowly. He did not hurry. He did not apologize for being late. His daughter stayed close to his side, the stuffed owl pressed against her chest. Her sneakers squeaked on the marble floor. Celia glanced at her assistant, a woman named Grace, who raised her eyebrows but said nothing. "Name?" Celia asked. "Isaac Brennan," the man said. "And you brought your daughter to a defense contractor pitch session." "I did." Celia looked at the cardboard box. It was the kind you got from a grocery store, creased at the corners, held together with packing tape. She could see marker scrawl on the side that said fragile in handwriting that belonged to a child. "That's your prototype?" "It is." Someone in the back laughed again. Celia did not stop them. She gestured toward the presentation space, a raised platform with projection screens and a glass table. Isaac walked up. He set the box down gently. His daughter sat on the floor beside the platform, legs crossed, Atlas in her lap. She did not speak. She watched everything. "You have 5 minutes," Celia said. Isaac opened the box. He lifted out a drone that looked like it had been assembled in a basement. The frame was carbon fiber, hand-cut, no logo, no branding. The rotors were mismatched sizes. The camera housing was wrapped in electrical tape. Celia heard someone whisper the word junkyard. She did not correct them. Isaac set the drone on the glass table. He did not explain it. He did not defend it. He pulled a small remote from his jacket pocket and turned it on. The drone lifted into the air without a sound. Not the usual hum of commercial quadcopters, not the whine of military-grade propulsion. Silence. It hovered at eye level for 3 seconds. Then it moved. The flight pattern was not a grid. It was not a programmed route. The drone moved like water, curving through the atrium in a spiral that tightened and released, rose and dropped, responded to nothing Isaac was doing with the remote. Celia leaned forward. Grace stepped closer. The engineers in the back stopped whispering. The drone flew between 2 support columns, adjusting its angle mid-flight without slowing. It dropped 6 feet in half a second, stopped, and reversed direction. It was reacting to the space itself. Celia had seen autonomous drones before. She had seen AI-guided navigation systems that cost $14 million in development. This was something else. Isaac did not smile. He did not narrate. He let the drone fly for 90 seconds, then brought it back to the table. It landed without a sound. He turned it off and placed it back in the cardboard box. "That's it?" Celia asked. "That's it. What makes it fly like that?" "Predictive spatial learning," Isaac said. His voice was flat, the same tone he might use to order pancakes. "It maps the environment in real time and anticipates obstacles before they register on standard LiDAR." Celia blinked. She looked at Grace. Grace was staring at the box. "You built that in your garage?" "I did." A man in the back stood up. His name was Dominic Ashford. He was 46, silver hair, a Patek Philippe on his left wrist, and he had been the head of R&D before Celia was hired. He had not taken the demotion well. "Ms. Harmon," Dominic said, his voice smooth and loud enough to fill the room, "I think we've seen enough. This is a hobbyist project. It's impressive for a weekend build, but we're not here to waste time on DIY experiments." Celia hesitated. She looked at Isaac. He was buttoning his jacket. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. His daughter stood up, holding Atlas tightly, and moved toward the door. "Wait," Grace said quietly. Celia turned. "What?" "I want to see the code." Isaac stopped. He looked at Grace for the first time. She was 28, quiet, the kind of analyst who sat in the back of meetings and caught mistakes no one else saw. "The spatial learning algorithm," Grace continued. "Can we see it?" Dominic laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Grace, we have a schedule." This man walked in off the street with a taped-up toy. "Let's not pretend—" "Show me the code," Celia said. Isaac reached into the box and pulled out a flash drive. He handed it to Grace. She walked to the nearest workstation, plugged it in, and opened the directory. The room went quiet. Celia walked over and stood behind her. The screen filled with lines of script, tight, efficient, no bloat. Grace scrolled slowly. She stopped on a function labeled Anticipatory Mapping V7. "This is original," Grace said softly. "Of course it's original," Dominic said from across the room. "He probably copied it from an open-source repo and tweaked the variable names." Grace did not respond. She opened another file. Then another. Celia watched her face. Grace was not someone who showed surprise easily. But her jaw was tight. "This isn't copied," Grace said. "This is custom-built. Every function, every module." Celia looked at Isaac. He was standing near the door, one hand on his daughter's shoulder. The girl was looking up at him. Atlas was tucked under her arm. "How long did this take you to write?" Celia asked. 18 months, Isaac said. "Where did you work before this?" "I didn't." "You didn't work anywhere?" "I worked. Just not in tech." Dominic crossed the room in 4 strides. He stood in front of Isaac, close enough that the height difference was obvious. Dominic was taller by 3 inches. "Let me save everyone some time," Dominic said. "You walked in here with a cardboard box and a kid because you thought it would make you look sympathetic. You think we'll feel sorry for the single dad trying to make it work. But this is a defense contractor, not a charity. If your drone was actually worth something, you'd have come through proper channels." Isaac did not respond. He looked down at his daughter. She was staring at Dominic with the kind of clarity only children have when they know someone is lying. "We're done here," Celia said quietly. Isaac nodded. He took his daughter's hand and walked toward the exit. The door closed behind them. The room stayed quiet for 5 seconds. Then Dominic clapped his hands once, breaking the silence. "All right," he said. "Let's move on to the next presentation." Grace did not move from the workstation. She was still staring at the code. Isaac and his daughter walked 3 blocks before she spoke. "They didn't like it," she said. "They didn't understand it yet," Isaac said. "Will they?" "Maybe." She adjusted Atlas in her arms. The owl's left wing had a small tear near the seam, stitched closed with blue thread. Isaac's wife had sewn it 2 months before she died. The owl had been in the car with them the night of the accident. His daughter had held it in the hospital waiting room while the doctors explained what internal bleeding meant. They stopped at a crosswalk. The light turned. They crossed. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Why did that man say we came to make them feel sorry for us?" Isaac knelt down. He looked at her straight on. "Because some people think kindness is a trick. They think if you bring your kid somewhere, you're trying to manipulate them. They don't understand that you're just my kid and I'm just your dad and we go places together because that's what we do." She nodded slowly. "Okay." They kept walking. At 9:47 that night, Grace sat in her apartment with her laptop open. She had copied the flash drive before Isaac left. She knew she probably shouldn't have, but she also knew what she was looking at, and she knew Celia needed to see it again. She opened the anticipatory mapping function and ran a simulation. The algorithm predicted movement patterns in a test environment with 97.3% accuracy. Standard military drones operated at 62%. The best civilian models hit 74% on a good day. This was not a hobbyist project. This was a foundational rewrite of how drones understood space. She called Celia. "It's late," Celia said. "I know. I need you to look at something." "Grace, the code from today. The single dad with the cardboard box. I ran simulations. It's real." Silence on the line. Then Celia said, "Send me the file." Grace sent it. She waited. 3 minutes later, her phone rang again. "Where did he say he worked before?" Celia asked. "He didn't. He just said he worked." "Find him." And it took Grace 4 hours to track Isaac down. He did not have a LinkedIn profile. He did not have a website. He did not have a business registration. What he did have was a mailing address on file with the county clerk's office from a permit application he'd submitted 2 years earlier to convert his garage into a workspace. Grace drove there the next morning. The house was small, single-story, painted white with blue shutters. The driveway had oil stains. The mailbox had no name on it, just a number. She knocked. Isaac opened the door. His daughter stood behind him, holding Atlas. "Ms. Harmon sent me," Grace said. Isaac nodded. "Come in." The living room was clean but worn. There was a couch with a blanket folded over the arm, a coffee table with a stack of library books, a drawing on the fridge held up by a magnet shaped like a sunflower. The drawing showed 2 people and an owl. Grace followed Isaac into the garage. It had been converted into a workshop. Workbenches along 2 walls, soldering irons, spools of wire, a 3D printer in the corner, and on the main table 3 more drones in various stages of assembly. "How many have you built?" Grace asked. 11, Isaac said. "Why?" "Because I wanted to see if I could." Grace walked around the table. She picked up a notebook. The pages were covered in equations, diagrams, handwritten notes in margins. The handwriting was meticulous. "What did you do before this?" she asked. Isaac was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I was an aerospace engineer. I worked on guidance systems for the Air Force. I left 4 years ago when my wife got sick." Grace set the notebook down carefully. "Why didn't you say that yesterday?" "Because it didn't matter. The drone either works or it doesn't." "It works." "I know." Grace looked at him. "Ms. Harmon wants to meet with you again. Officially. She wants to see a full demo, and she wants to know if you'd be willing to license the technology." Isaac glanced at his daughter. She was sitting on a stool near the door, Atlas in her lap, watching them. "I'll meet with her," Isaac said. "But my daughter comes with me." "Of course." The second meeting happened 3 days later. This time it was not in the atrium. It was in a private conference room on the 7th floor. Celia sat at the head of the table. Grace sat to her right. Dominic Ashford sat to her left, arms crossed, jaw tight. He had not been told about the meeting until that morning. Isaac walked in with his daughter. She carried Atlas. She sat in a chair near the window and did not speak. Isaac set a hard shell case on the table and opened it. Inside was a newer version of the drone. Same design, cleaner build. The rotors were identical sizes now. The camera housing was professional grade. "This is the production model," Isaac said. Celia leaned forward. "Show me." Isaac activated the drone. It lifted silently and flew a pattern through the room that avoided every obstacle. Chairs, table edges, the overhead light fixture, without hesitation. It moved faster than the prototype. Sharper turns, more precision. When it landed, Dominic was staring at it like it had just insulted him. "Where's the telemetry data?" Dominic asked. Grace slid a tablet across the table. Dominic opened the file. His expression did not change, but his breathing did. Celia saw it. "This is impossible," Dominic said quietly. "It's not," Isaac said. Dominic looked up. "You're telling me you built this alone? In a garage? With no funding, no team, no institutional support?" "Yes." "I don't believe you." Isaac did not respond. His daughter turned in her chair and looked at Dominic. She spoke for the first time since entering the room. "My dad doesn't lie," she said. Her voice was small but clear. The room went silent. Celia looked at the girl, then at Isaac, then at Dominic. "Dominic," Celia said slowly, "do you have a problem with this technology or do you have a problem with where it came from?" Dominic set the tablet down. "I have a problem with the optics. If we license this, we're admitting that a man working alone out of his garage outperformed our entire R&D department." "He did," Grace said. Dominic's jaw tightened. "We don't know that. We don't know if this code is original. We don't know if he had help. We don't know." "I know," Celia said. She stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot 7 floors below. When she turned back, her voice was different. Sharper. "Grace ran the simulations. I verified them. This technology is worth $8 million minimum, and that's conservative. If we don't license it, someone else will. So I'm going to ask you one more time, Dominic. Do you have a technical objection or a personal one?" Dominic did not answer. Celia turned to Isaac. "I want to make you an offer. $8 million for exclusive rights to the spatial learning algorithm. You'll be credited as the lead developer. We'll bring you on as a consultant if you're interested. Full benefits. Flexible schedule." Isaac looked at his daughter. She was watching him. Atlas was tucked under her arm. "I have 2 conditions," Isaac said. "Name them." "1, my daughter comes with me to any meeting, any demo, any presentation. I don't work nights. I don't work weekends unless it's an emergency." "Done," Celia said. "And 2, I want a public acknowledgement, in writing, that I built this alone, that I'm the sole creator, and that Artemis Defense Systems is licensing it from me, not buying me out." Celia nodded. "You'll have it." Dominic stood abruptly. "This is a mistake." "Sit down," Celia said. "You're letting him dictate terms because he brought his kid to a business meeting. You're letting emotion—" "I said sit down." Dominic did not sit. He walked to the door. Before he opened it, he turned back. "You're going to regret this," he said. Celia did not respond. Dominic left. The door clicked shut. Celia sat back down. "Grace," Celia said, "draft the contract. Isaac, you'll have it by end of day tomorrow." Isaac nodded. He looked at his daughter. "We should go." "Wait," Celia said. She stood and walked around the table. She crouched down in front of the girl, lowering herself to eye level. The girl did not flinch. She held Atlas tighter. "What's your name?" Celia asked. "Mira." "And that's Atlas?" Mira nodded. "Mira, I'm sorry I didn't listen to your dad the first time. I should have. He's really smart, and he built something nobody else could build. I was wrong." Mira looked at her dad, then back at Celia. "It's okay," she said. "People make mistakes." Celia smiled. It was not a corporate smile. It was something smaller and real. She stood up and extended her hand to Isaac. He shook it. "Thank you," Celia said. "Thank you," Isaac said. They left. Celia and Grace stayed in the room. Grace closed her laptop. "That was the right call," Grace said. "I know," Celia said. She looked at the door. "But Dominic's going to fight it. Let him." And 2 weeks later, Isaac signed the contract. The announcement went out on a Friday afternoon. The press picked it up by Monday. The headline in Defense Tech Weekly read, "Single Father's Garage-Built Drone Lands $8 million Deal with Artemis Defense." Dominic Ashford resigned the following Tuesday. No press release, no public statement, just an email to the board that said he was pursuing other opportunities. Celia did not ask him to stay. On a Saturday morning 3 weeks after the contract was signed, Isaac and Mira sat at their kitchen table eating pancakes. The griddle was still warm. Atlas sat in the chair next to Mira, propped up against the sugar bowl. Mira poured syrup in a spiral pattern across her plate. "Dad? Yeah? Are we rich now?" Isaac smiled. "We're okay now." "What's the difference?" "Rich means you stop worrying. Okay means you worry less." She thought about that. "I like okay." "Me too." They ate. The sunlight came through the window and made a square of light on the floor. Atlas watched them from the chair. The drawing on the fridge had not moved. The magnet shaped like a sunflower held it steady. Isaac looked at it and thought about his wife. She would have been proud. Not of the money, of the fact that he did not give up. Mira finished her pancakes. She wiped her mouth with her napkin and carried her plate to the sink. Isaac followed her. They washed the dishes together. She handed him the plates. He rinsed them. The water ran warm over their hands.